Welcome to episode number 24 of the Better with Brock podcast. I'm here with the legend Norma Nelson, and we just met last weekend, I think it was. Was it last weekend or the week before?
I think it was last weekend. No, the week before. The week before. Yeah.
So yeah, we both had orange leggings on, which is a first for me. Not sure about Norma.
Yeah, it was first for me too.
But we were the coaches for Hermés Fit, which was an event in Sydney. Awesome to be a part of the brand.
So good.
How did you find that experience? How did you find
it? Was amazing.
But
for me, I remember just pinching myself a lot, thinking, how did I get here? I'm surrounded by all these people from, the wellness, fitness industry that have, excelled, and they've, got thousands of followers and all this stuff. And there's little humble Norma in the mix.
But you were different.
Yeah.
You were like, no one else could have done what you did, even though I don't think it was displayed in the classes. Like, it was like what you had to do, a hat balance class.
That's right.
What sort of classes were you doing?
So I was doing a hat balance class and a silk class. So basically, I think they approached me in the first instance because they found me on Instagram. I love to fuse different modalities of movement. So, handstands, animal flow, yoga. So I've got a lot of, stuff going on my page, or, different ways that I move. And that's what sort of, enticed them towards me, I guess. So they wanted me to put something creative together using hats and scarves. Yeah.
So how do you incorporate things into using that product? Because I was doing a HIIT class, right, with shoes.
Yes.
So I was doing the shoes as I was saying that they're the most expensive dumbbells you'll ever use, $1,500 shoes.
Excellent.
And we were dragging them left to right, squatting with them.
That's actually really creative, because I think if I was tasked with that, I wouldn't know what to do with them. How do you incorporate a shoe? And I spent a lot of time thinking, this is so strange. How am I going to do a hat and scarves? And then, I kind of thought about it a lot and just thought, what? I'm just going to hat balance. I'll just do things that involve balance, try and get creative with it, try and fuse, all the different modalities that I'm familiar with, and come up with something creative. So they approached me with it a long time ago. I think the whole process started, many, many months ago.
March.
That's exactly
I almost forgot about it at one point, and then they emailed, they're like, we're looking forward to go. I was what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember at the time when they sort of chased me up again, there were so many interims, between I'd hear from them and then I wouldn't hear from them for like months, and I'd forget about them, and then they pop their head up again. I'm like, oh my God, that thing. And I remember I was in Thailand at the time when they were really getting traction on it, and they were like, okay, so we want you to send, a couple of videos so that we can send it off to, Hermès so that they can get the approval. So I'm on a beach in Thailand thinking, what am I going to do with a scarf and a hat, So that's actually where a lot of the sort of creative sequencing came from. I was really relaxed at the time. I had a bit of time on my hands to just, get a bit creative with it. So it was a very interesting experience. I loved it. I loved the connections that I made. And it was just, I was so grateful to be a part of something so big, and to be surrounded by people that have really excelled in their industry. And it was very inspiring on so many levels.
I'd never heard of pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Like even like they're like, Norma Nelson's going to be there. And I was like, shit, am I meant to know who that is? They're like, and Leah Simmons. And I was like,
I don't know.
Who's that?
Yeah,
I'm like a guy that lifts weights.
Exactly.
Trying to wonder who these people are. And they're like Pilates and yoga and like different, like you're saying, different.
The only person I'd come across before was Leah Simmons. I know what she does in the wellness industry space. But even you, I remember we parked our car next to each other before we even got in.
I was like,
and we nodded at each other. I'm like, hey. And then next minute you're in there with the orange tights like me, and we're like, hey, it's you again.
I was wondering, I was like, because I had no idea where to go. I was like,
same.
I kind of looked at you and I was like, I nodded, but I was like, I was trying to say in my head, like, do you know where to go? Or like, what are you doing? Do we go this way or that way? So what do you actually do on a day-to-day basis? Because like you're saying, you're doing animal flow, doing yoga, you're doing handstands. What is it?
My full-time sort of gig is I'm a yoga teacher. So predominantly that's what I do. I started doing yoga, I don't know, around 2013. I did my yoga teacher training in 2016 and started teaching in sort of part-time, while sort of still holding down a really high-pressure corporate job. And then in 2018, I made the switch to teaching full-time. So I teach full-time yoga in studios across Sydney, but I also do my own thing on the side. So I do a lot of workshops, handstand workshops, arm balancing workshops, and that's essentially what I do.
So taking it back to the corporate job, what were you doing in the corporate world? Because that's a very different life.
Oh my God, it's a very different life indeed. So, I immediately before teaching yoga, I was in corporate doing sales and marketing. Before that, I did architecture. And at that time in the sales, at one stage in my life, I thought, if I make enough money, I'm going to be happy, right? Money is the route to happiness. And, so I found myself in sales. My life kind of took me in that direction. I was fortunate enough to be very, very good at what I did. But because of that, there was more and more pressure being put on me.
You get tied down more.
Oh my God.
You get promoted.
Absolutely.
You get more responsibility.
You get more pay as well. And all of it is just escalating, So I got to the point where anxiety was just, I was so anxious, stressed. I was kind of living a pretty unhealthy, if you think about that lifestyle, and high-powered corporate, roles, high pressure.
And were you pursuing fitness at all in this time?
No. So
no yoga?
This is why I started doing yoga, because I was so stressed. I was not living a healthy lifestyle. When you're not working and trying to meet targets, you're in the pub thinking about or trying to decompress that way. And it was just unhealthy lifestyle, both the stress factor, outside of work, all of it was just horrid. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. I'm going to kill myself if I carry on like this, No, literally.
Yeah.
So I started doing yoga, and that's basically where that journey started. So I, over time, the, breaks at the pub at lunchtime and after work got replaced by going to yoga classes, and this was something that really helped me out. So that's where my yoga journey actually began. And over time, the yoga kind of took over. I got more curious about it. I thought I want to find out a little bit more about why this modality of fitness makes me feel so good and I just wanted to deepen my practice with no intentions of being a teacher. Over the years, it just took over. I remember the day I got up from bed, I just woke up out of my sleep and I was like, yep, I can't do this anymore. I can't do corporate anymore. So it took me 2 years to fully transition from, part-time teaching to full-time, because, you're earning a crap ton of money, and then going into a world where it was completely unknown. I didn't know how much I was going to earn. I didn't think yoga teachers earned that well, but thankfully, due to my sales background and just knowing about business, I've got a pretty good business head on me. And after a few years of teaching in the industry, I started to see where gaps lay and where I could potentially do my own thing and increase my revenue. So I've been growing my business essentially, even though I still contract myself out to a few studios here and there. But ultimately, I want to be kind of more independent from studios and really just focus on doing my own thing more.
So what would you give as advice to people that are aspiring yoga teachers or yoga, they want to run classes, or maybe they want to do privates? Because I even know a few people that they love yoga.
Yeah.
And it seems like when people do yoga, they kind of dive into it head first, like you did.
It's just something that you just, we come, I remember when I first started doing yoga or my yoga teacher training, something that really stuck with me is that, people come to yoga for a reason. Maybe it's to be fit or to de-stress, decompress, whatever. But the minute you delve into that world, it's so much deeper. It's so much more than like physical movement. The philosophies that come with it, and it's just so it's deep. It's a deep world of self-awareness, knowing what's going on within you, how you relate to yourself, to the rest of the world. So it's so much more than just the physical practice. Yeah.
So how would they turn it into a living if they were like, what advice would you give, or what struggles did you go through when you were trying to go from this corporate to a full-time teacher?
Regardless, you need to, I think it's really important that you get into studios, because that's where you're going to grow your following. If you're a great teacher, people will always come back to you, and before you know it, you've got heaps of people that just follow you everywhere.
People are so cult-like with classes too. They're like, I'm not going on a Tuesday. That's not Norma.
Exactly. And when, if I'm going away on holiday for like 3 weeks, God forbid another teacher takes my place. I'm like, so guys, I'm going away for 3 weeks. This guy's going to be taking over. Please support him. None of them turn up.
They're like, we'll take 3 weeks off, thanks.
Exactly. Which is really, it's very complimentary, and I feel very grateful for having this very, solid following of people. But it just goes to show you how human beings can be creatures of habit. They're just like, nah, I want this and this only. And even the yoga philosophy tries to teach you not to, non-attachment. Don't get attached to
idolize
things. And like,
anyone.
Nah, I don't care. I'm coming to your class.
I love Norma.
So yeah, definitely start off with studios to build your client base, and from there, naturally things will, evolve and happen. I've been so lucky, to have had so many different opportunities that have come my way. The Hermés thing, the Lululemon ambassadorship, all these, I've had crazy projects that I've done through the years of doing yoga. And this is purely from people coming to my class, feeling my energy, and just going, you're amazing or whatever. Can you do this? We want you to do this. I haven't actively gone out for most of these things.
Like you haven't done the sales and marketing work that you studied.
I know, right? Yeah. It's incredible. I think it's a testament to, anybody that does what they love. If you're passionate about what you do, it will resonate through every pore of your being. People will see that a mile away, and that is something that is a beautiful quality to have. It means that you're being very true to yourself. You're not, this is not just a job to you. I don't look at my job as a job anymore. It's just, I'm getting paid to do something I love. I get opportunities, bigger opportunities out of doing something I love. So yeah, I'm extremely grateful that things have kind of turned out the way that they do. My initial fears of, am I going to be able to support myself, this, that, and the other? Everything just looks after itself. You work hard, you do things with integrity, you live a life of service in a way. We're living a life of service. We're helping other people achieve things and da-di-da. It always comes back. It always comes back to you in some way, So life is a beautiful journey. You just got to surrender to it sometimes.
So what do you think people love so much about working with you or having classes done by you? What do you think separates you or gives you the Lululemon ambassadorship and Hermés Fit gig?
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously my personality, I'm really passionate about what I do, and you can see it when I teach, definitely. You can see that this has come from a place of experience as well. I'm one of these people that, I see a lot of coaches out there that haven't really immersed themselves in their industry, but are teaching and doing all this stuff. And, that you might go to a class and they don't demonstrate and things like that. And for me, I get inspired by, the real deal. If you're going to teach me about something, you better have been doing it for a period of time. Do you know what I mean? You better know what you're talking about. And I'm exactly the same, But also, I think I'm very encouraging. Like I have a passion for really getting people to see the potential within themselves, because that's something the yoga practice kind of does. It's an incredible journey. If you told me, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, you'd be running handstand workshops and you'd be able to do this with your body, I'd be like, no way, But it's something that has just evolved through the practice, the discipline of practicing every day and doing all this stuff. And then you're like, oh my God, my body can do this. What else can I do? And then you keep, and also I think maybe there's not many people like me, I don't know many black yoga instructors in Sydney with
blonde hair.
Yeah, with blonde hair that looks different, and that could be a factor. Who knows? Diversity is a big thing now. So,
but also, I don't think that's big enough to say I'm going to go to her yoga class because she's black and has blonde hair.
Definitely not.
If you sucked,
definitely
you would have empty classes.
Exactly, and also my skill set. So. Obviously handstands is something that I'm so passionate about. I've spent a lot of time, money, training myself with some of the best handstanders in the world, and even that whole handstand journey itself. I remember when I saw, somebody do your handstand for the first time, I'm like, whoa, that is
like for longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, okay, is this part of yoga? Started doing yoga classes. And every time I would go to a class with an instructor that, claim to have, know about handstands and stuff, they never really taught it. I'm like, they're just like, okay, so this is your opportunity to, try and get into a handstand. We'll just dump 10 times and hopefully you'll catch something. I'm like, that's not a technique.
Like, where's the steps?
Where's the steps?
What do I focus on?
Surely that I can get to this consistently every single time, surely. So I couldn't find it in yoga, and I had to go out of the yoga industry. And, all the guys that I followed on Instagram, all these guys with hundreds and thousands of followers, people that have been handstanding for like 30 years. I've studied with most of them, you know, I've done workshops with most of them. So all this collective knowledge is what and the time that I spent, you know, getting to that level. And I think it's inspiring for a lot of people. They're like, oh, wow, you know, if this little person can do it, surely I can, you know. I like being that inspiration to people, and that sense of encouragement that, yes, you can. It is possible. It is completely possible. And I love when people are surprised by their own abilities, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that you said there that I really like. First of all, encouragement. I think I'm particularly good at that as well. It's difficult in an online space to give encouragement as directly because you're not with them. You know, you kind of celebrate their wins after they achieve as opposed to throughout their achievement. But that's why, so I'm not good at emails, but I have a software called Loom, like everyone can use it, and I just talk to the camera. I would rather give encouragement and give my feedback emails through that instead of like, hello, John, you know, good job, you lost 2 kgs. You know, I'll talk and say like, this is awesome, like, so they can see my energy.
That's right.
But I think a lot of people don't have encouragement these days.
No, not at all.
I was fortunate enough to get encouragement, and it was in a different time of my life. I was 14, but I was surrounded by a lot of older people that really saw something in me that I never saw, and they encouraged me. And this was when I was doing music, but they encouraged me to sing, to songwrite, to stand on stage, and you know, actually think that I'm okay. Because I was like, I can play Bob Marley. Like my dad, or like he taught me House of the Rising Sun. I did lessons. I could do Bob the Builder, Flintstones, theme songs, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was just something that was fun. And then they saw like a raw talent, I guess, or just believed in me, and that encouragement. You know, even though I didn't become Justin Bieber, it gave me the steps to be confident.
It's
and then,
important.
You know, when I transitioned to fitness, I had that confidence, but it came from that early encouragement. Yeah,
it's actually very interesting that you touch on the subject of encouragement, because for me, it was completely the opposite. You know, when I was younger, growing up, you know, there were stages of my life where I grew up. Well, I predominantly grew up in the UK, in London. And at one point in my life, my parents or my dad, you know, got a job in another part of the UK that wasn't so, you know, diverse in terms of people. It was very, very homogenous, you know, mostly white people. I was the only like black kid in my school. So at that period of my life, and I think it was about through the ages of like 14 to 18, which are really pivotal stages in a teenager's life, I didn't have much encouragement, and it was detrimental to the person that I became, you know, years after that. So I understand the power of encouragement. And I was, you know, when I got to a point where I'm in a position to influence other people, that was at the forefront of my mind. I'm like, encouragement is so important. It literally, if I had been encouraged through school, the decisions that I wanted to make, you know, were affected by the fact that I had teachers that were telling me that I can't do this. No, you won't be able to do that. You know, what does that do to a kid? You know, absolutely detrimental to their being. So that was something that I was like, you know, I'm not going to be like this. It's so important, especially with kids, to instill that sense of confidence in them from a very young age. And I was a teacher before I became a yoga teacher. I taught in Thailand. I lived in Thailand for many years as well.
So what did you teach in Thailand?
I started off teaching English, actually, teaching English as a foreign language, and then moved to other things, you know, drama, musical theatre, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, that was also at the forefront of my mind, that these little people, we have to sort of shape their minds. I remember at the time that I actually moved to Thailand, so funny. Well, now it's funny. In retrospect, it wasn't that great. But there were not many black people in Thailand at that time. And even getting the job, I remember the person that interviewed me was like, you know, I love your energy, Norma. You sound like an amazing person. But the reality is, you know, Thais they're not used to having black people here. I don't know how you're going to go. And I remember one of my first days at school teaching, a little Thai kid comes up to me and is just, you know, all over these saying things in Thai. I had a translator at the time, and I'm like, what's this kid talking about? And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Just kind of laughed it off in that sort of, you know, peevish way. And eventually she told me what he said. And his words were, do you own a gun? I know. And I'm like, why would you say that? And
Kids
he's like,
just say anything.
Exactly. And they were like, no, black people TV and what they'd seen from TV. And I was mortified.
Yeah, he would have got expelled if he did that today.
Oh, yeah, you know. But at that moment, it's, you know, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is a child. And there's already been an imprint of what he thinks about black people. And I can just let this slide or actually change his opinion so that he can become a different kind of, you know, adult. So yeah, things like this, you know, shaping young minds, encouragement. Yeah. So it's very interesting that you touched on the subject of encouragement. Sorry, I deviated.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Another thing you said was that I'm picking up from what you said is you're a practitioner, right? So you've done it all.
Oh yeah.
And that's very rare, I think. More so in the online space, I guess, because that's where I am.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that will post cool videos. They're engaging, like, oh, wow, you can do a handstand and put your leg like that. That's crazy. I'm going to sign up. Yeah. But they have no coaching skills.
That's right.
Because they're not a practitioner. They are, you know, I did a 2-week course and now I'm going to, you know, make some money for, you know, just kind of fool people. So they sign up, they get a PDF and they're like, sweet, I made $50 or I made $100 and just do it all over again and kind of recycle through people. So I think being a practitioner is super important. That's why I think I do well online, because I've been a coach. You know, I started in 2015, and even though I've only done it from 2015 to 2020, the amount of hours I spent on the gym floor is just ridiculous. Like I would, you know, I would be there. I would generally start at 6. Some days I would start at like 5:30 if I would be crazy enough to take on an early person. And then I wouldn't leave till about 9 p.m. Yeah. And that was Monday to Friday.
That's it.
And then, you know, if that wasn't enough, 14-hour days on the weekend. In New Zealand, when I first started, I was doing any sort of modeling gigs that I could get. Yeah. And I was also a TV presenter as well. Wow. So I was doing this stuff like just, and this was when we were talking about before on the podcast, I got burnt out. Yeah, exactly. Right. But then also when I came so I did all that. I moved to Australia, I burnt out, and then I came here and I was like, okay, I want a job. So I went to, this was when I was in Sydney. I first went to Gold Coast. I moved to Sydney, and then I went to Fitness First, Market Street in the CBD. Yep. And I was there, and then I was just like, I want to work from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. busy with clients, so I'm going to just work those hours anyway. And I had the structure of my work was, I didn't do any classes because I backed myself a lot. So I was like, I've been a personal trainer before, I'll just start paying rent. And even though you make $0 when you first start, you just take that burden of paying the rent, and then you build your clients as you go. And fingers crossed, you get some, you get some clients, or else it's $400 every single week into Fitness First. Out the window, right? So I was down to a point where I had about $2,000 left, I really pushed it. And my house rent was about $350. I had a studio in Potts Point, real small, pretty gangster. Like walk out the street, prostitutes on your left, drug addicts on the right. Just crazy. Like it said Potts Point, but it was on Darlinghurst Road. So I was like, this is King's Cross,
this
man.
Is the ghetto end.
Yeah, like Potts Point sounds good, but it doesn't look good. So I was working a lot, like 6 a.m., 9 p.m. But then because I had no money, and $350 a week rent for my house, $400 for Fitness First, that's $750.
Already out the window.
That's 3 weeks I've got to make some money. So I'll do 6 a.m., 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. Friday, though, I would finish at about 5 p.m., catch a bus to Parramatta and do dishes for my cousin who was a chef from like 6 p.m. till midnight. And then Saturday, Sunday, I was doing dishes all day.
This is insane.
So it was crazy, right? So that, like, I have that practitioner blood where like I'll just make it work.
Exactly.
Like I'll do whatever I need to. So for personal training, even though it's only 5 years, it felt like a lifetime. Like I was just real, like in it deep. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people online don't have. Like they will just get an Instagram account, post, if they have a good body, flex some abs, do an ab workout, and start getting some, and it's like, and then when you sign up, it's just completely terrible coaching.
And that's exactly right. But I think, people that are practitioners and have come from places of integrity, there's definitely more longevity in that, because people that have just pinched an idea and are on the sort of bandwagon just for the hell of it, I don't think there's much longevity in that or integrity in that. So people don't come back, But yeah, for me, you've got to practice what you preach, really. It boils down to that.
Well, you can't fake a handstand. You can take a photo, but you take a video.
That's right.
You can't fake that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
And another thing that I like that you said was that you were pursuing education, or you were pursuing workshops and you were learning from people.
Definitely.
That's one thing that, so I have this golden rule that I always have to be enrolled in a course.
Yeah, always be learning.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. The minute you stop learning, you're pretty much moving backwards. You're stale, you're stagnant.
Yeah, because if you're not learning, someone else is learning. And I don't believe in forward, still, or backwards. It's either forward or backwards. Yeah, There's no in between.
Exactly.
So I just finished a course literally 2 days ago, and I don't have a course yet, so I'm breaking my golden rule. But what I'm doing is reading a research review every morning.
Okay.
So I have this and there's probably about 30 or 40 of them I have to get rid of. So it's about 30, 40 days, and then I'll have to sign up to another course.
To another one, yeah.
But one thing that people don't really get is that costs a lot of money, man.
Oh my goodness, the amount of money I'm invested on my self-education.
It's 10 to 20 grand a year.
Insane.
And it's like, people will be like, that's crazy, that's a holiday and stuff. But
it's important.
That feeds into that longevity.
Definitely.
Because the average life of a personal trainer is 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a shocking statistic.
Yeah. And I've been doing it since 2015, so coming up 8 years.
That's it.
And you've been doing it longer than 1 year.
And like you said, just continuously learning just helps you evolve as well. You can't be stationary and stagnant in what you've learned. Okay, I've learned it all, I'm going to stay here. No, there's always something more to learn. Things are always evolving. So it's something, and it keeps me motivated. You get bored doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're learning new things from different people.
That's exactly
I've learned from people in Australia, in America.
Absolutely.
I want to dive into places like the UK and that as well, because they just approach things differently.
Completely.
And they have different, in America, in the bodybuilding or athletic world, there's Charles Poliquin, where he has heaps of people that have learned from him. But then I learned from someone, Tony Bataji here, who learned from other people around the world, like Ian King. I'm going to search his courses and stuff. Like, you can just learn from so many different people.
Same as with yoga or handstands or whatever. And one of the things that I love doing when I travel is go to other yoga studios, discover how, it's so different from place to place. Like yoga in London, the vibe is so different to yoga in Sydney, so every time I go back, I come back with so much inspiration because I've learned a different way of doing things. I've learned, so it's very, very important. And to just draw on different, areas of knowledge. Like there's nothing like it. I get excited about learning, so I never want to stop learning. It just gives me something else to share with my people. The people that I work with, the students that I grow with. It's a continuous process of evolution and growth.
I think it changes you as well in the way you coach, because we're just an accumulation of all our thoughts, all our ideas, and all the things that people say to us, our environment.
So true.
And if that environment's stale, then you become very stale. I've seen it. So to take me back to Fitness First, when I was face-to-face, so I finished in 2020, start of 2020, 24th of December, Christmas Eve 2019 was my last day. I took a photo beside the personal trainer wall, where you have the cheesy quote and you have what makes you different and your phone number. I took a photo beside it because I was proud of myself that I had left face to face, because not that it was terrible. I was actually really sad to leave face to face training, because as you understand, you love your clients.
Of course.
I was like, man, I'm sorry guys, I'm going online. You can I was like, you can come with me online, and they're like, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
And it was hard. So a couple followed online, and then most people just left me
out. But then you build a whole new client base.
I think it's a different person that coaches online than someone that requires face-to-face training. But it was a sad time, for sure. But the trainers were so stale.
Wow.
So stale, doing the same thing over and over again. And clients, the same thing.
Yeah.
And they just looked like that whole paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, like not just about money, but just like getting through the week. And there was no joy in programming and seeing progress.
Yes.
Like hardly any of them had iPads that they were looking at program to see how we would apply progressive overload 1 week. What week are they following? And all this kind of stuff, like what their nutrition was. Like they would work. It was crazy, man. I could be here all day complaining about the level of personal training, because it actually disgusts me.
Wow.
And like people just on their phone, not even looking at a program, social media, texting, taking calls.
Yeah.
Like this guy was once taking a call from a real estate agent because he was like doing something with a property. I was like, mate, your client's squatting. He's literally like not even looking. And then this same trainer, and I will not say his name, he doesn't deserve any air on this podcast, but like he would have a charger in the corner and just be like looking at it and stuff. And I was like, this is blowing my mind. Like the level of education that they were getting was like zero. And like when I first signed up, I think that's what made me different. I like you have less time as a personal trainer to go and do courses because you have to train people. And that's why I stepped out of face-to-face, because I wanted to do more courses, but they just didn't make time. Like weekends, no, that was time off. There was no extra learning. And I think that's why their business or their revenue, if you want to talk about like money-wise, will just be the same, and their level of growth. Because, you know, I have this saying, and, you know, I'm not just like, oh yeah, let's make money, but I have this saying that I said to one of this guy that worked for me for a while. He was programming with me and doing online work. Like the more you learn, the more you earn.
Of course. Just
because it gives you capacity, and it's not just about earning more, but you actually teach people much better, and your service and your value gets better, and therefore you have to make more money if you're giving more value.
That's exactly that's what it's about. It's giving more value, you know. And I just don't know how. It's like with anything, if you don't continue to sort of pursue things or have an interest in other facets or areas of what you do, you become stale. So it doesn't surprise me that these people are on their phones because they haven't even got the urge to grow within themselves and learn more, and you know they lose their passion, etc. But yeah, I think that's definitely a mark of success is, you know, how passionately you feel about what you do, you know. But yeah, the online thing is so interesting. You know, I think COVID has just it brought a whole new perspective on coaching online. You know, you obviously have a bigger reach. All of a sudden, you know, teachers that I used to practice with when I go back home to England or wherever that I would practice with once or twice a year, now they were just my fingertips any day of the week that I wanted, any time I wanted. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool, you know. So it was a bit of getting used to there, you know, the whole online teaching, but now it's something that I definitely embrace and I want to grow more, as well as the face.
Have you considered doing online training?
Absolutely.
Because I was stalking you before the podcast, like I was saying. I went all the way back to your first Instagram post, and I was like, you know, it's just another tool that you can have, because I had this time, sorry to keep coming back to this Fitness First time, but when I was doing Fitness First, and I dived head first, you know, I had not much money and I was like, I need to work. So I built up from 0 sessions to 60 sessions a week in 3 months.
Jeez.
I was just, I was like a bit of an obsessed monster, but I had to, because I had nothing like, and it wasn't because I was like, I just need money. It was never that. It was just like, well, it kind of was for a point, because if I didn't get money, I would have been flying back to New Zealand saying, hey dad, you got a spare bed. But I was like, first of all, I was like, I need to get through this point where I'm so broke, I can't even do anything. I got to 60 sessions, and that's, you know, coming from being pretty broke to 60 sessions a week is incredible. You know, like you feel like you're doing pretty well. Like you're like, wow, you know, I finally can go out for dinner and stuff, and I don't have to do dishes. I was so proud so my birthday's New Year's Eve. And
Capricorn. You are.
Yeah, Capricorn.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
3rd
When's
of
your
Jan.
birthday?
3rd of Jan.
3rd of Jan.
Yeah.
Nice. So I was working, and then on my birthday I said, like, this is my last shift I'm doing. And I was so proud because man, washing dishes, like I'll do it, but man, it's not as fun as personal training.
I remember back in the day when I was like, you know, my teens, part-time job, washing dishes. You're like, how can people do this?
You smell terrible.
Oh my God,
it's like the worst hours. Chefs throw shit at you.
Horrible times. But yeah, it puts a lot into perspective. You're like,
yeah. So I was so proud to like kind of finish that. But once I like got through that point and where I was finally making enough to sustain my lifestyle, I was still posting throughout this whole time, but I had this point where as soon as I got to 60 sessions, I kind of thought, is this it?
Yeah, right.
Because I'm always thinking forward. And I was like, man, this is tiring. Like I was doing 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. So the hours weren't a bother because I was used to the hard work, but I was like, if this is what it looks like from now to when I'm 60, like this is hard yakka.
It's
like,
not sustainable.
Imagine if I have a family, like I'm never going to see my kid. I'm never
course.
going to see my wife. Like it was really hard to sustain a relationship through that time.
Of course.
And I was like, man, so I was posting online and stuff like that. And then that's when I started picking up my first clients being online. And then I had this transition point where I was doing face-to-face, and where I increased my rates because I wanted to make time, because some people would drop off, so that I could do
more
online training.
stuff,
And then as I got busier online, I started to charge more, and then I was working like half the amount, making the same, but then also having the benefit of online training.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, man, Norma should be doing this because you have so much value to give.
Definitely on the radar, you know, especially with my sort of handstand stuff. I've been doing a lot of physical workshops, face-to-face, which is very important, obviously. But I found that a lot of my clients that come to these workshops, they want to have something to be able to take away and continue with. So, you know, putting together like a program, you know, a concisive handstand program, things like that are things I need to work on.
Yeah, there's things like, you know, you could have handstand programs that are, say, one-off things that take them through 12 weeks, or there's the subscription model where you can have, you know,
so much. I should
like
talk to you about it.
Yeah, we should have a chat after the podcast.
Definitely have a chat about it.
Just because I think that you have so much to give.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Why do you think people should do yoga?
Oh, why do you think people should do yoga? Look, it's...
Actually, quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe try bring your mic, because if it's kind
of fading in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, bring the cord around to the front.
Yep.
Just quickly. Yeah, just so it doesn't keep falling that way. And also because I think the camera's going that way, the mic might cover your face.
Okay.
We don't want to get your beautiful face covered.
Why should people do yoga? Yoga really changed my world, to be honest, you know. Yoga is the union of mind, body, and spirit. And especially in the sort of the lifestyles we live in this day and age, there's so many pressures, and it's just, there's so much. The older you get, it feels like, you know, you've got more things to more challenges to deal with. I definitely in so many ways. That. And yoga is just something that centers me, you know. It's something that brings me to the present moment. And sometimes you need that just to block out everything else that's happening in your world, to have moments of quiet and focus, and you can come out of that and see things from a different perspective, if that makes sense, you know. And the yoga practice also really highlights a lot about the person that you are, you know, and where you are at in this time of your life, you know. A lot of the things that happen on the mat are very reminiscent of things that happen off the mat. You know, you see people that are impatient, they can, you know, lose, like, just the way you react to the challenges of the practice itself is like a mirror of how you are, you know, off that mat.
That might be why I'm terrified of yoga.
Literally,
I might see who I really am.
There's so much self-discovery in yoga. It is a discovery of self. The whole practice is about you. Good and bad, everything comes up, you know. But also the physical aspect, obviously, the healthy aspect of it, the philosophies behind it. So it's become like a lifestyle for me. There's no day that goes past me. You know, I'll have 1 or 2 days where my body needs to rest and I won't do a physical practice of yoga, but pretty much it's something I do every day of my life, you know, in some way, shape or form, whether it's practicing it mentally or physically. So yeah, everyone should do yoga, just to discover a little bit more about themselves, you know, the relationship that you have with yourself, the relationship you have with the rest of the world, you know. And yeah, finding those moments of presence is so important, because there's so much noise constantly in our lives and our heads. And yoga actually is the physical practice of yoga was set up initially just to prepare the body for meditation, or the mind for meditation, you know, because it quietens the mind enough to be able to sit down and meditate and have even more clarity and even more presence. So yeah, everyone should do yoga, 100%.
Yeah, I was talking about this with my wife, actually.
Okay.
Because I kind of made a joke about her. Maybe it was about a month ago. And I said, are you about to do your annual session of yoga?
She does it once a year.
But every week she's like, I want to do yoga.
Yeah.
I want to do yoga.
Just do it. Come to my class.
She's pregnant at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So
after.
She'll get back into it after. She's really hanging to do it. But every time she does it, she feels amazing.
Of course.
And we were talking about it. So we were having this discussion about sustainability, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Not really regarding yoga, but also just people entering older age where sarcopenia or loss of muscle.
Am I going to be able to do a handstand at 70?
Yeah, like this sort of stuff like comes through. I think you will.
I think I will.
But it's so she loves it every time, but she said it's not really physical. It's more like how you feel. And she actually said the same thing. It's to get you into meditation.
Absolutely.
So she was saying that, and I was like, yeah, I guess like, well, I have no real experience. Like the only yoga I've done is like minimal. First time I fell asleep. You know, I just like I wasn't really focused. Like at the end where I was lying on my back holding my stomach, and she was the lady was saying, you know, that the sun is like warming your heart and your belly and stuff, and I was just like gone. I was just like, that's the last thing I heard. I was like, see ya.
Yeah.
Like I was just
It's
gone.
really funny because most people's first experience of yoga generally isn't that great actually. They're like, oh my
it wasn't that
God.
great to be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't for most people. And I think for me, you can spot a beginner a mile away, obviously, you know, right
just
from the mat,
everywhere.
just right from the mat that they carry into the studio. So the fact that with every, you know, cue that you give for a posture, they're looking around, trying to look at the person next to them. You're like, okay. And then, you know, they might have an idea of what yoga is. The worst thing, actually, something that's really funny that girls do all the time. And I'm like, why do you do this? You know, I'll find some of my students that are, you know, females. They'll bring they'll bring a date to yoga, right? Oh my word. And more
that's
often
the date's
than
fault
not,
for showing up.
more often than not, it's, you know, a big hunky guy, you know, full of muscles, and he's like, yeah, I'll do yoga. Comes in, sweating bullets after 5 minutes. The flexibility is not there. His ego is completely destroyed.
I can relate.
And they never come back. I'm like, why would you do that? You know,
You
why
just
would
like
you
set
do
him
that?
up to hate yoga for the rest of his life.
But yeah, you know, aside from that, the struggle is real when you first start doing yoga. Nobody's, you know, completely flexible. When most people aren't flexible, they're not strong, and that's why they do it in the first place. But if you can push through those initial months of, you know, so obviously start from an essentials program, start from the beginning. You know, don't just jump into an open class or an advanced class, because you'll never go back. You know, you'll be so disheartened by looking around at what other people can do and you can't do. You won't come back to that class. So for me, especially when I see these beginners, those are the people I need to encourage even more.
Yeah, you need to pour that out.
I need to just reinforce the fact that it's okay. I was there. Trust me. Yeah. I remember a time where I couldn't touch my toes. I looked around and I was like, there is no way on earth I would be able to do all these things. Yeah. And look at me now, 7 years into practice, becoming a teacher, this, that, and the other. I've gone way beyond all of my expectations. I remember my first class, I was this body conscious, had a t-shirt on, some trackies, you know.
Trackies.
Yeah, I was just
not even leggings.
Not even
No
leggings,
way.
you know. This person that can touch their toes and this, that, and the other. So it's been a mad journey, hey. And, you know, to realize the capabilities or the potential within myself has been, it changes you. You think, you know, if I can do this, I can literally do anything, you know, and that's something that is so prevalent in my mind when I teach, just to remember that beginner mindset. It's so important. It's so important to just, because, you know, as we evolve in our practice, it's easy to also forget what it feels like to be a beginner, you know? So yeah, that's something I'm very, very conscious of in my classes.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Like so Leah Simmons, I did her class on Monday.
Oh, first time. Yeah.
Yeah, first time doing a Kaya class.
Insane,
like
it's insane.
It was close enough to yoga or Pilates for me, and sweating bullets, me straight away.
Oh my goodness.
Like it was crazy. So we had to do this thing. If you're listening, I'm kind of doing
your arms are out. Yeah.
No.
Oh,
so it was elbows in.
Okay.
Like this.
Yep.
And then you had to reach up and
I think
inhale.
It's this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
that. Yeah. I remember doing it.
Oh man. Mate.
Did you do the one where you
like
have your arms
at
out?
The end.
Oh my God, I was
I'll
like,
get to that.
Who am I?
I'll get to that. So this one, first of all, my traps are still sore today. Traps. I was like, I can shrug 200, you know, I got strong shoulders, all this kind of, and
that was a mind over matter situation there.
Yeah. I went straight up, straight down. Man. First 2 minutes, breeze.
Dead.
But then I started slowing. Exactly. And then it felt like I was overhead pressing like 90 kilos. I was like, whoa, what is this? And then there's these older ladies beside me.
And they can do it.
I'm sitting here going, like, just shaking like an old car.
That whole Kaya experience is next level, isn't it? I think I cried by the end of it because I was so emotional. So much stuff had churned up in me.
She was saying it's a metaphor for life.
Oh, man.
She's like, it's not even a physical experience.
Yeah,
and I was like,
really
that's so
not.
true.
Yeah,
because this was like, this isn't hard. I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
But like, it was like my mental chat
Exactly.
Are you going to keep doing this? Are you going to put your hands up again? Are you going to try and keep that speed? And even though I was like, in my head, I was still doing the same speed, but in real life, it was like slow motion.
That's what I mean. You've got to pull those powers of like mind over matter. It really tested me on so many levels, but I loved it. It was an experience in itself.
So to jump to the arms out pose. So we did the breathing, and then we did a workout part, squats, side planks. I didn't find that too hard.
Challenging.
Except for when we were doing the single leg glute bridge, and then one leg was going up, pointing down, up. I was like, oh, my glutes are on fire. And she's like, legs straight, but I'm so tight.
Yeah.
My legs like bent.
You can't straighten it.
I'm trying to straighten my leg to the roof, but it's super bent. And I was like, oh, this looks ridiculous. Man. So, we get to this point where we're sitting there.
And it's right at the end as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Arms out to the side, like this, pinkies to the sky. So you're twisting your hand up. And 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, I was okay.
Yeah.
And then
it kicks
I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know when to open my eyes or close my eyes, because it was like my first class. I was like, are we meditating or are we
taking a little peek?
So I was like looking around like, what are you doing? Okay.
Is everyone still got their arms up? I'm dying.
Am I just standing there like this? And like people had their arms out, but I had to bring them in and then bring them out again. Kind of shake it out, because my shoulders were on fire.
I experienced exactly the same thing. You know, at one point I was like, oh my goodness, how much longer is this going to take? And I'm on my hands all the time. Handstands are my thing, but
true.
Still, this was like next level. But what an experience! Everyone should experience Kaya.
And it was during the time she was doing like motivational chats
throughout whole way.
She's like, don't give up. You are better than this. You can do anything.
You can do anything.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I was actually telling her, I was like, this is what it felt like. So I spent from probably 14 years old to 22 at church.
Yeah, wow.
Heavily. I was like, it felt like a church session.
Yeah, right.
Like I was like, my hands were warm, like the Holy Spirit was touching my hands.
It's like an out of body experience.
And I was like, whoa, this is like powerful. And
absolutely, it is powerful stuff.
Yeah, and
very
one thing I said was, like when we were trying to meditate and our arms were out and stuff like this, I had so many thoughts in my head, and there was many decisions that I had to make that I've been putting away for a while. And mainly to do with Team Rock Ashby, like the business and life and all that kind of stuff. So I'm also having a baby in January. So there's like things going through my head. And I made like 10 decisions on the spot. I was like, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. And I was like, I kind of needed this emptiness to get these things out of the way.
Exactly.
But I felt like I couldn't meditate because I had these thoughts in my way.
Exactly.
And there were so many of them, I kind of needed that time to tick them off, and so I could be empty or have
make space for that.
Because I'm always like, I need something to do. And
I'm exactly the same.
And even when it's silent, I'm like, let's put some music on in the background. And my wife is like, just sit there in silence. And I'm like, but let's just put some music on.
Why not?
I love music.
Yeah, we sound like very similar beings in that sense, and that's one of the reasons that meditation is like something that I've recently gotten into as well. So
how do you meditate? I'm legit curious because I have this thing that I do, and I'll tell you after. But what do you do?
So meditation, that's the next level. Even though I came into yoga and the whole calming thing and presence and all this stuff, I'm still such a busybody. I need to be doing something. If I'm not doing something, like you said, listening to music, my mind is always busy. I'm like, when is this going to slow down? And at some point I discovered, Vedic meditation. Okay.
Sorry, can you say that again?
It's called Vedic meditation.
Vedic.
It's based on the Vedas, which is like an old yogic script, basically just teaching you how to live a good life, etc. But yeah, Vedic meditation is there's so many styles of meditation out there. Breath counts, all this kind of stuff, focusing, visualization, all this stuff. I've tried all of them, but I wasn't feeling them. It's not something so anyway, at a point in my life, I kept getting almost like messages, like, when things happen that are not just coincidence, like you feel like a message is coming to you. And actually in Vedic meditation, they call it the charm. It's called the charm, and it basically means you're listening to your instincts. Your instincts are open, and there are messages coming to you to sort of lead you in a certain direction. Messages coming from who? It's almost like signs in your life, like opportunities. It's just like if you put something out there, or you are present enough to know that there are things, your life journey is leading you in a certain way,
Yeah.
And I just kept being surrounded or having encounters with people that kept talking about Vedic meditation. I'm like, what is this, you know? But more than 3, 4, 5 people I'd come across, and somewhere in our conversation, Vedic meditation would come up. Right. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look into this Vedic meditation. And from what I could understand at the time, it's based on, you know, the Vedic scriptures, but also the technique was based on focusing on a sound, right? And a mantra, okay? Where you repeat the sound like repetitively for 20 minutes.
Like a chant?
Yeah, like a chant, okay? Or a word or something, you know? So I looked into it. I was like, who does Vedic meditation in Sydney? And, you know, I found a place in Bondi. It's one of the biggest Vedic meditation centers, you know, in Sydney. And lo and behold, they were starting a course like the next day, you know? I know. And I'm
challenge
like, here we go.
On.
Yeah, you know, challenge on. And that's what I mean by, you know, when you sort of delve a little bit deeper into Vedic meditation, the charm, that sort of instinctive pull that you have towards something. And at that time, it was just meant to be that I went down that path, you know? And it was something that was extremely helpful to me, especially over COVID, where, you know, there was a lot of isolation. I was in my mind a lot. And, you know, it was a way of just bringing your awareness and presence to one thing, and really that's what meditation is. When you think about meditation, you think about not thinking of anything. Actually, no, it's a one point focus.
That's what I thought it was, and that's why I always struggled.
Yeah,
I was like, I can't just sit here and think of nothing.
That's right. You have to think of something.
Yeah,
so
you
they
need
give
kind
you
of like a distraction, but the right distraction.
Exactly. So when you start Vedic meditation, your sort of teacher will give you a mantra, a word that doesn't really mean anything. It sounds like
word of the day.
Yeah, you know, but it doesn't mean anything. You can't tell anyone that word. Nobody else knows that word apart from me and my teacher. And you're supposed to go away, sit down for 20 minutes, and you know they dispel all those myths of like, oh, you have to be upright, and you just sit in a comfortable position. You sit in a comfortable position, you close your eyes, and you just say this word for 20 minutes. And
out loud?
No, in your head, right? But it's challenging trying to say any word for 20 minutes and see how the minute you're like, yep, this is good, I'm getting into it. And then within two minutes, you're thinking about dinner. You're thinking about your partner. You're thinking about what you got to do tomorrow. And then you're like, oh, I've got to pull back in. And there's that constant journey of pulling yourself back into that present moment, back into that word, you know. And over time, you have moments of just clearness, you know, whether it's 30 seconds where there's and over time you actually forget about the mantra as well.
Right.
And that's where that clarity comes, you know? So it's such an interesting and definitely the best form of meditation in terms of what resonated with me and what felt like it worked, you know? Something that I could discipline myself enough to do every day for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. You come out re-energized, you come out clearer. There's space to look at things from a clearer perspective rather than your mind boggling with all kinds of thoughts and you're trying to, you know, solve a problem, but your head is all over the place. There's just so much more clarity, so much more presence, calmness. So meditation is something that I'm definitely trying to pursue, more. I'm going on a course in December that's purely on Vedic meditation. But meditation is a good thing. And yoga prepares you for meditation.
Yeah, is that something that you'd look at putting into your work?
Look, a part of the yoga practice, it's not uncommon to go to a yoga practice and then at the end a teacher will offer meditation.
It's really short though, like there's not much time. Like how do you fit that into a 45 minute
For me,
class?
meditation is more like my personal thing. It's not something that I've gotten to a stage where I feel like I'm I have enough knowledge to share or perhaps, want to share. It's just something for me.
It's helped you through personal things?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my kind of go-to. Whether there comes a time where I might want to share that with the world or feel like I should share it, definitely that, we'll see. Time will tell. There was a time where I started yoga. I'd never imagined that I'd be teaching yoga.
Yeah.
And here I am. Or have followers. Like, I want to do this. Right. So you just don't know where your life path will take you. But for now, it's something that I know that I need for my own personal development, for my mental health.
Yeah, I have this thing that I do, and I started actually when I started going to church. So I used to just wake up and pray every day. It was my first thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the Lord's Prayer. I didn't find that meant anything to me. I was just like, that's just something that people say.
Yeah.
Like at funerals, at weddings, it's just a thing. It's not Brock's thing.
Yeah.
So I wrote this list on a piece of paper and just... I was always kind of addicted, maybe addicted to gratitude. And I was like,
oh, so important.
Yeah. So the main reason I went to church or maybe sought something out that was bigger than life or bigger than what I was going through was because I lost my mum when I was young.
Oh, no.
So I was a bit looking for something. I was definitely open and maybe charm.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
charmed me into going to church.
Yeah.
So my friend invited me to go watch him dance. It was at a church. I was like, he was a crumper.
This is brilliant.
A crumper.
This is brilliant.
Like Christian Crump's a thing. I'm not sure if you know, but
Christian Crump.
Christian Crump.
Get out of here.
At the point. So shout out to me, Huddle. He was actually in... He was actually on a podcast.
Okay, I'll have to listen
Still
to
a great friend.
Yeah.
And now he's in like New Zealand's biggest band playing keyboard.
Incredible.
Right? But he got me into church and he was like, yeah, man, we're just doing a crump thing. You want to come watch? I was like, I got nothing better to do. I'll come watch this. So he crumped at church and I was like, oh, this is quite cool. And then he's like, oh, man, why don't you come Sunday? Because he was like Christian and he was like, come. And he was a great friend at school. And I was like, sweet, man. So I went. And I sat at the back on the heaters. I was like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm too cool for this, right?
Yeah.
End of the session, I'm like crying, you know, and I'm like melting.
Profound,
and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So pretty much from then on, I was like in church for a while. I got involved in singing, writing songs, music, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like doing gratitude. And I was like, so I had this list, I would say like, thanks first for everything that my dad, you know, my brother, my friends. And then I just had this big prayer list, the things that I would pray for.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it started with that, my friends and all that stuff. And then it went to a different place of the things that I had. So simple things, clothes on my body.
It's so important.
You know, food on the table, money in my wallet. Smile on my face,
That's it.
breath in my lungs, real simple things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this for me as well, this is something that from a very young age, my mum instilled in me. And through times of like challenge, when things aren't really going well, it's so important to, instead of looking at what you don't have, look at what you do have. You know, be grateful for the things that you do have. And, you know, that's something that's been instilled in me from a very, very young age. And I'm grateful for my mom instilling that kind of knowledge in me just to keep things real. You know,
I think people have lost that.
Oh, totally.
People
totally.
lack gratitude for sure.
Totally, you know, and it just sets you straight in your head. It's that's definitely something on a daily basis. You know, I try and remind myself of things that I'm grateful for rather than focus on the things I don't have right now.
Yeah, which is very easy as well. Like, especially with social media, it's very easy to see what people have that you don't have that you would like.
Of course.
But yeah, it's a real superpower. And it started off with, I'm grateful to breathe today. Like, because, you know, once you've seen your mother breathe her last breath, you're like, you know, the value of a breath. And you know, from doing breath work yourself, you know how important it is. But to acknowledge that you had a million breaths today is crazy. So it would start from there. And I would work through all the things that I had. And then I'd actually, and I don't know if this is meditation still, but it was on my prayer list. I'd pray for the things that I wanted. Yeah. So I wanted to, like, you know, when I was at church, I want to be like a number one singer. You know, I want to write amazing songs that people remember. Yeah. You know, I want to be a generous person because the worship pastor at the church, Nathan Phillips, who's like a second dad to me, still to this day, was the most generous person. Incredible. He would never stop shouting me food. Yeah. And it always made me feel like guilty, but that guilt turned into, I want to be like him. Exactly. I was like, I want to be generous. Exactly. And then I was like asking like my friends and especially Nate at the time, like, man, how do you be generous? Like, I don't have money. Yeah. And he was like, it's more than money.
Yeah, acts of service.
But also with the little money you have, if you do want to be generous with that, you know, there's a quote that I love from the Bible that like, I can't really remember what it is, but it's like, he who is given little will be given many type of thing. Or
yeah.
like, you know, if you're entrusted with little, you'll be entrusted with many type of thing. So like what you do with what little you have matters. Because
so
then you'll be
much.
entrusted with more if you treat it with respect.
Exactly.
Like if you have not much money and you just spend it on shitty things and just, you know, do selfish acts, then I don't think you'll ever be entrusted with heaps, because then what's going to happen then? You're just going to...
You just squander it.
Yeah, like you will do nothing good with it. So I was like on that. And then I would finish it with all these proverbs. So my favorite quote is, lazy hands make for poverty, diligent hands bring for wealth. And that is Proverbs 10:4, I think. And I like, that was like my mantra, probably still to this day in my life. It's what I follow. And it's not necessarily about being wealthy. No. It's more so about, you know, if you have lazy hands, not much is going to happen. And if you have diligent hands, a lot can happen. You know, you can do anything you want.
Yes.
And it does ring true with finance too, but it's more so, you know, wealth and relationships, wealth and happiness, wealth and fulfillment,
and all sort of aspects
in relationships.
Of your life.
Yeah, so I really love that. So I guess that was my meditation, and I think to come back to me focusing on something, I think that's why that works for me, and I still do it today because it gives me something to focus on.
Absolutely.
And I actually have a big list in my phone now, on my notes, and when I'm too busy, I say, "Hey Siri, can you read out my?" And I feel like, oh no. Here, Siri's reacted on my laptop.
Oh no!
And I ask her to read it out
to reinforce it.
If I'm driving, and it's like, "Thank you for your dad, your brother."
Amazing.
But
it's
it
the
kind of reads it
power
out.
of sort of writing things down and, you know, visualization and all that kind of stuff. It's very important. Like, you know, I remember I still do it. Every year I have like, you know, a list of things that I want to achieve by the end of the year, or aims or goals. And it just gives you something to work towards, to feel like you're, you know, there's that sense of achievement after as well.
And I actually think
direction.
Sorry, I actually think it gives you the eyes or the vision to see the charm.
Of course.
So I think with that Vedic meditation, and this is what I think my meditation gives me, is I'm casting out what I want and like the things I want and the things I'm grateful for and stuff like that. So I can actually see it because I'm aware of it.
Of course.
But I think if I didn't bring my attention to things that I wanted to be, people that I loved, I wouldn't see it because I'm not aware of it.
Of course. And you're manifesting it essentially by, you know, having that in your sights and carrying that journey through to manifesting that initial thought
you're
or
kind of
idea.
looking for opportunities for it to be there. But I think if you don't meditate or if you don't have this idea of what you want, the charm will be there, but you won't see it.
You won't see it. Exactly.
Like, I think, that's what I was
so
thinking.
succinctly put it, and that's what the charm is. That's what it goes back to, that instinctual, you know, you're so present that you can feel that energy and the direction that you're, I mean, in life we have choice, right? So many choices, and we can, whatever we have the ability to do good or bad with it, or excel or not, be lazy, be hardworking. Life is all about choices. But also, you know, when you are on a path and you're pretty sure about the path that you want to go, there are always things that will come to you to help you, to dissuade you perhaps, you know, and it's just being present enough to see the right signs and follow them and take those opportunities that come. And if you're not present and you're not aware, you're going to miss a billion opportunities.
Or take the wrong ones. Because there's great ones and there's, I'm sure there's a charm and then there's a negative sort of charm. I'm not sure what the word would be.
Absolutely. Because you could argue that, okay, well, charm made me a drug addict or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I was attracted, and that's not a good charm. You know? So it's all about choices and being present enough to make the right choices and the choices that will help you evolve as a human and help you evolve, you know, in the way that you are of service to the world, you know. So there's so much in it, and it's something that I've literally just started kind of getting my hands into over the past year and stuff, and I'm interested to see, you know, how I evolve through this and what it brings into my world, you know.
It's something I'm definitely pursuing too. Like I have that gratitude list, and that's been my thing that I've had. Like I literally put my ideal person that I wanted to marry in it when I was 14.
And you've married that person?
Yeah.
Look at that.
But it took me I thought it was someone else once, and I thought it was this person, but I kept it in that list.
Yeah.
And now I've taken it out and like
because you found it
and replaced it with gratitude. But I was like,
so
I want a woman that makes me better. I want a woman that's this. I want a woman that's that. And it wasn't like, I want her to look like this or look like that, because that's,
it was just
that's pretty, that's just whatever
it's very
it is.
shallow.
It's the stuff that sustains that counts.
Of course.
So it's definitely helped me to like attain things as well. Not that my wife is something that I attain, but it's cast that net out so so that I can see the charm. So I definitely want to see how my meditation type of adapts as well.
You should definitely check it out then. And a lot of it is online as well. You don't have to. I started doing it online because it was in the middle of COVID that I discovered.
But 20 minutes scares me.
20
like
minutes
that's the thing. Where
I know, but
I'm like 20 minutes. I could do mine in 5.
It seems like an exceptionally long period of time, but I invite you, or just to give it a go.
I accept the
just
challenge.
try. Yeah, no, seriously, go and check out the guys at Bondi Meditation Center, and just the philosophy that comes around it as well. So we have they have these sessions where once a week or twice a week they have group meditations, and over COVID it actually became an online group thing. So 40, 50, 60 people would sign in, and we would meditate together for 20 minutes. So complete silence for 20 minutes, and then an hour and after we would talk about things. It was just discussion, open discussion, anything to do with the Vedas or Vedic meditation or things that came up in your meditation. And that was actually a very valuable thing to be a part of, because we could talk about anything. You could talk about anything. What the challenges that come up in your meditation, why 20 minutes as opposed to 5 or this or that, and that's part of it as well. Just knowing so much more the depth of this style of meditation. But I really think you would.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah.
I think I would get a lot out of it.
I think
emptying of the brain for me is a very good thing.
It's very important.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back to a question around what my wife and I were talking about in terms of sustainability and a training format that can last the years, because I feel like there's a lot of, so I'm mainly doing online personal training and people trying to build muscle and lose fat. And I come from a very sustainable way. I'm like, we're not training twice a day. We're not doing crazy diet things that won't last longer than 2 days or 3 days. Like if you can do the diet now,
you can do it
6 months later, 1 year later, 5 years later, then that's the diet we're going to do. We're just going to make small tweaks and all that kind of stuff. So sustainability is always at the forefront of my mind. And I was talking with my wife around, I was like, imagine weightlifting 3 times a week, doing yoga 2 times in the middle. I was like, is that like a super sustainable program? I was like, is that the most sustainable program in the world? Because, so in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to actually chat to you about it. With yoga, if you did that every day, I was like, is that enough stimulus for the muscles to increase bone density enough to help protect them as they get older? So I'm talking like 60, 70, or maybe even 50s.
I think the oldest yoga teacher that's still alive actually is in her 90s. And you should see the things that this woman can still do with her body. Wow. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I'm very, very confident that this is a modality that I will probably be doing for the rest of my life. Like, it's not like weightlifting that's so challenging on the body and so demanding on the body that there's a shelf life attached to that. And with the yoga practice as well, obviously there's different levels of yoga. There's so many different levels of yoga. Okay, maybe, at the age of 90, I might not be able to, my repertoire might not be as huge in terms of the things I can do, but I'll still be able to do a lot, you know? And most importantly, it's the practice of yoga that keeps your body and mind healthy, you know? It's not something that's supposed to be an experience of suffering. You're not supposed to be on a yoga mat suffering in any way, shape or form.
That's the only experience I've had on a yoga mat.
Well, maybe that
trying
comes
to touch
back.
my toes, that's suffering, man.
And that's it. This is something I preach about all the time in my class. Yoga is not about suffering. It's not about looking at the person next to you who can pretty much, lay their chest flat on the floor by folding forwards, and you can barely touch your toes. And it's your ego that is going to push you to that place where you're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You don't know their history. You don't know how often they've practiced. You're comparing, and it's your ego actually that's getting in the way. You're not listening to your body anymore. If you're feeling, I want something I say a lot especially when we're kind of, in certain yoga poses, you've got to fold forwards, and it's that point where, you see all the guys that are inflexible, they can't touch their toes, and they're like, trying so hard. I'm like, look, don't compare yourself to the person over there who is looking like they can sleep in a fold, you know?
Seriously.
But that person is actually struggling to feel anything because they've gone way beyond their threshold of flexibility. You can't touch your toes, but you can feel all the feels. The hamstrings burning up. So you should be lucky. Actually, you're in the better position, you know. But yeah, it's all about balance as well, and just listening to your body. Essentially, listening to your body. So, you know, anyone that has a terrible experience of yoga is probably down to the fact that they're, you know, in the wrong class, or maybe not a great teacher, maybe not listening to your body and knowing where your threshold lies. You know.
So sorry to jump in. So do you think yoga is on its own something that's going to be sustainable all the way through?
I think so. Definitely.
Because my only question,
ask me.
because my only question was like, you know, and I have older people in my life that are like fragile, and I'm like, I wish they lifted weights. And it doesn't, like, I'm not talking squatting 100 kilos. I'm just like, I shouldn't say lifting weights, resistance training.
Okay.
You know, whether that's body weight, whether that's bands, whether that's a 1 kg dumbbell, I don't care. But I'm like, just something to make you a bit more robust, a bit more less fragile, so that you can actually just walk or like kneel down without like I made it.
And
like,
that's
it's
it.
such a victory dance.
This is exactly what yoga does. It also reverses the, you know, the effects of modern day living. You know, people that come into our classes and they're hunched over, they can't open up their chest because our lives are on computers and freaking, you know, mobile phones. We're hunched over all the time. And I see old people that have had no experience of yoga or anything like that. And I feel sorry for them because their lives have dictated how their bodies have become in their old age.
Like you wish they did it 20 years earlier, 10 years earlier.
Exactly. And that's one thing I'm so grateful for, that I found yoga earlier in my life, because I know that this is something I can take with me, you know, for the whole duration.
Yeah.
Like I said, one of the oldest yoga teachers in the world is like at the age of 95 and she's still doing her thing.
Yeah.
Still looking great, still being able to move. So yeah, definitely yoga is one of those, you know, modalities that I think is definitely sustainable for the duration.
Interesting. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Quick question before we do 3 questions just to wrap it up. What is the key to nailing a handstand?
Practice. People always say to me, oh, how do you get so good at it? You have to put the work in. Technique, you know, you obviously have to know the right technique.
Yeah.
But you've got to put in the hard yards. You have to. And I went through a lot of, you know, not pain, but a lot of frustration, mental pain.
It's such a skill.
It's such a skill.
Like I try to think of the equivalent, like doing your first push-up or doing your first pull-up. Like those are amazing feats, but handstands like a next level.
Oh my God. And you know, for me, my handstand journey, when my handstands really, when that journey really began, was when after I did like a, you know, 8-day immersion with one of the, you know, greatest handstand sort of coaches. And it was an immersion in Thailand over several days. And this guy broke me. Like everything I thought I knew. I was, you know, an emerging handstander. You know, my handstand looked terrible. I couldn't hold it for very long. And he just broke everything down. I had to start from scratch. So
how frustrating.
My ego was destroyed. I was like, but I can balance myself. And now you're telling me that it's not good. And I have to start again. And then all of a sudden I couldn't balance because I'm learning all these new things. And my body wasn't used to it. And then I came back from the immersion, and then COVID hit. We were in lockdown. So what did I do? Spent months in my bedroom handstanding, literally hours a day on my hands, you know, doing videos, assessing my progress. And
I'd love to see those videos. I think you should post them.
I probably should, actually.
You should. Like, this is day one of the pandemic.
That's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. But I re-immersed myself into, but it's something that I really was so passionate about nailing. I was like, man, now that I know the technique, I want to know what I want to know how far I can take this. But at the end of the day, it's all about practice, you know? Yeah. You can come to one of my workshops and I'll teach you all the tools, but you've got to go away and do them. You've got to do these drills. You've got to, you know, be disciplined enough to come back with every, you know, pain point that you have. And every day is different, you know. Today might be like, oh, mentally I'm just not up for it, or my wrists have had enough, or my shoulders have had enough, and you've just got to push. And as you're kind of conditioning your body to be upside down, in a steady way all the time, and then you start learning about dynamic movements upside down as well, there's a lot of pain points that you will go through. I had so many, instances where my shoulder was out, this was out, that was out, probably because I was doing it too much, but also your body getting used to new things, moving in different ways and holding yourself up in different ways. And but yeah, you've got to put in the hard work. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you want to do a better handstand, you got to do more handstands. If you want to do a better wheel, you got to do more wheels. Simple as that. So there's a lot of discipline involved.
Yeah,
100%.
Simple is really hard for people to grasp because they almost want something so complicated to justify why they can't do it or why they can't get better. Because if it's complicated, it's like, oh, I can't do that because of this. But you're just like, just practice.
Exactly.
And then they have to take ownership, which is hard.
It's very hard.
But necessary.
But very, very necessary, And it's I think that's where kind of the yoga practice has helped me as well, that sense of discipline. They call it tapas in yoga, that
tapas.
sense of just discipline, regardless of the weather, regardless of how you're feeling today, get on that mat, do your thing. Yeah, your body might not feel like doing this today, but maybe this will be enough today. But just do it.
That's also why I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, nice.
I'm still a white belt. I've been doing it for about a year.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between a white belt and a black belt.
Yeah.
It's practice.
Exactly.
It's technique, but ultimately it's showing up.
Absolutely.
And it's
showing up.
It's
That's
like
the word.
practice. And they still win with the same submissions.
Yeah.
They've just practiced it
So
about
many more times.
1,000 times, 10,000
that's
times.
Right.
And we're learning the same thing. And I'm like, that's not possible, man. Yeah. Like, I'm doing it, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But it's just practice.
Yeah.
It's just a more practiced
That's
person.
exactly
Like a white
right.
belt and a black belt is just literally
How much
little
work.
practice to 10 to 12
That's
years
right.
of
You
practice.
become a master of what you do, It's like anything, though, in life. Whether you're an exceptional pianist, you didn't get there by just, putting your feet up and practicing half an hour a day. You'll find that most people that have excelled in their craft or their skill have put in the hard yards. They're almost an obsessive point.
Yeah. But I think you also have to be obsessed to actually be good at something. Like,
of course.
I think people, actually, this might be a bit of a tangent, but I think people are scared to be obsessed with something because then people are like, oh, you're too crazy or But I feel like there has to be a point in time where you are crazy to actually get really good at things. Like I've been crazy about quite a lot of things, but like out of that time, I grew a lot. So when I was obsessed with music, I went to jazz school and I majored in jazz guitar.
Amazing.
I was obsessed with practice. I used to practice 7 to 8 hours a day, just scales.
Yeah, right.
So boring. I hated it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I loved it because I was getting so much better.
Yeah.
I was like remembering them. And then when I was doing a solo over a jazz piece, I was like, oh, that looks familiar. I can just slide into here. And then, that scale looks similar up here. I can just slide into here. If I didn't know where the scales were, I would just be guessing.
Do that. That's right.
And but it took that 7 to 8 hours a day of practice to actually know where the scales are, know what it sounded like, know what the song sounded like. And that's just a small example, but like I feel like
you have to be obsessed. Yeah,
I'm people that do stuff half an hour a day, and like that's not like I know we live busy lives, but it's not you have to make sacrifice somewhere and actually be a little bit obsessed.
Absolutely. I mean, I have no shame in saying that I'm obsessed with handstands. It's something I love doing. I get upside down every single day, like every single day. Any excuse, but yeah. I completely agree with you. You have to have a level of obsession. I think
100%.
Yeah.
So last 3 questions. We've been going for how long? We've been going for now. I'll let you go soon. It's
no. I'm just like I can't remember what are they going to be. I'm scared.
An hour 15, I think. What's one thing you do every day to become better? So this is the Better with Brock podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I love self-development. I love getting better, as you can probably tell. So what's something you do every day to get better?
For me, it's something I do every day to get better, as in, to better myself as a human is yoga. Not unfortunately, but, it's become a lifestyle for me. It's not a job. I didn't start it with the intention of it being a job. It was to make me better in so many ways. And also, like we've touched on before, something that was definitely I do every day to feel or to put perspective into things is that it's practicing gratitude. Every day before I go to sleep, I reflect on my day and find something that I've been, not find, but acknowledge something that I'm grateful for, And it just puts your life into perspective a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said previously, focusing on the things that you do have as opposed to things that you don't have. You know?
Yeah,
So,
which is simple but hard.
It's simple but hard.
Yeah, I have a question around you doing now yoga for work. First of all, you did it for a release from the corporate world to let whatever you wanted to let out.
Yeah.
But now it's a job. Has your relationship changed? Because my relationship with working out has definitely changed, because that's what I coach all day.
All the time. For me, the way it's changed is that I don't have, sadly, as much time for my own personal practice. So that's
exactly the same as me. It's crazy.
I love going to other people's classes. I love it. I want to hear someone else's voice. I want to move to someone else's beat, you know? I want to be inspired by every class I go to. There is something to take away, whether it's positive or negative. You're like, nah, I'm not going to do that in my class because that felt horrible, or that was amazing, or whatever, you know. But more so, it's just growing my own personal practice. So the busier I get, the more, you know, full on my life becomes, I feel like there's less and less time to focus on my personal practice. So I've got to be extremely selective about whose class I go to. You know, that time is so precious. It better be, you know, worth it.
This better be a good class. I'm just letting you know before I put my mat down, this better be good or I'm leaving.
Exactly. So I can't take this time back, you know? Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely the one thing that has become hard. It hasn't changed my opinion. I think, you know, a lot of people say, you know, when I loved something, it was a passion, and then I did it as a job, and then I absolutely hated it. I'm definitely not there. I'm definitely not there. But yeah, the one thing that I wish, you know, I could have more of is the ability to practice more, you know. But when I do practice, it's intense, it's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it's not as often as I used to, obviously.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. Like training used to be, I used to train as much as I could.
Same.
And work was after. Or like even when I was a personal trainer, it was like I'll train. Work is like something I'll fill in the gaps with. Yeah. But now it's kind of like work is a priority and I'll fill in the gaps with training. Exactly. So sometimes I'm like, I'll train for 30 minutes. Yeah. I never would have did that when I first started because I just loved it so much. I still love it just as much, but I have to prioritize like work sometimes. Exactly. And it's I definitely find like I still love it just as much, like you said. But yeah, finding the time to do it as much. And also, I really enjoy following other people's programs.
I love following other people's programs.
Yeah,
just to learn.
And just like you said, you learn. So for example, last year I did another trainer's program and we were doing pull-ups to a bent over row, back to back, no rest. And I was like, I get it. Horizontal pull, vertical pull, it's a back superset. But the grip, I was like, my grip's on fire.
Wow.
I was like, I'm not going to do that.
No.
You know, I'm never going to program a pull-up where you're pulling your body. And then when you get strong, I was doing weighted pull-ups. So I'm adding weight, pulling that weight up. Then I'm putting that down, straight away going to a barbell, doing a bent over row where I'm now holding 80 kilos. And I'm like, it's 2 core exercises, but I'll just never do that together.
Yeah, exactly.
So I learned.
You learn. And that's what I mean. There's something to take away from every situation, every class. You know, every class I go to, there is a takeaway, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's
They're
like,
both an asset.
Definitely not doing that, or yes, I'm so inspired by that. This is something I can incorporate into this, etc. So yeah, it's still a learning process. And yeah, I definitely love, you know, seeing how other people do it, just getting ideas and, you know, it's part of it.
Second question, what is a book that has made you a better person?
That's a tough one. Look,
are you a book person?
You know, more I'm a podcast person. But obviously, when I was younger, you know, books. You know, that's what we did. And for this one, look, the books that I think of that have made impressions on me, or I feel have made me a better person, or have influenced the person that I've become today, are definitely books that I read earlier in my life.
Me too.
Earlier in my life. So books like, say, The Color Purple or Beloved by Toni Morrison, Color Purple by Alice Walker.
I've never heard of them.
Oh, wow. So these are
they
books.
Famous? Are they popular books?
Yeah, very, very well. Amongst black people, and really, generally, the world should know about these books. And if you don't know about them, then definitely go and check them out. And for me, growing up as a young black person, minority, these books really brought a lot of perspective into things, the plight of, you know, not just black people, but minorities, women. I feel like these authors and these books and these genres were things that helped me believe in myself. as a person of color that has grown up as a minority.
So do you think they encouraged you, like we were talking about yesterday? They gave you that little push saying you can do it.
Absolutely. Because you look at the things that a lot of these books are based on, real life stories, either from slavery days or post-slavery, the plight of being a black person, a woman, especially. And these are things that obviously I can relate to. I'm a woman,
100%.
a black person. I'm growing up in a world where people are telling me that I can't do this because of the color of my skin. So it's these books, and my parents were very avid readers, still are. And I'm very grateful for some of the things that they passed on to me at a time where they knew that, if we don't instill these kids with positive things and really remind them of where they come from and who you are as a person, and the fact that your color makes no bearing on what you can bring into this world. And nobody should ever tell you that you can't do something because of the color of your skin or where you come from or your gender. And these books just reinforce it, to see the plight of other people and what other people have done, sacrifices, and in some instances that black people have had to make for our freedoms today. I'm still discriminated against, but nothing compared to what was happening in America 100 years ago, or still now, to be quite frank. So growing up with all these, things around you, it takes a hell of a person to be able to sort of fight through, adversity and this, that, and everything. You need positive influences in your life, So yeah, growing up, my parents introduced me to a lot of black authors that have influenced, the person I am today, instilled ideas of empowerment, things like that. So yeah, I think the majority of books that I read that have been a pivotal part of my life were definitely in my youth. But yeah, maybe The Color Purple would be one.
Yeah, nice.
By Alice Walker.
I'd love to read that.
Yeah.
Last one, and this may tie into those books.
Go on.
Last question. A quote that has made you better.
A quote that has made me better. I love quotes.
Me too. That's why I have
quotes.
it.
Yeah, I really love
questions.
quotes. The last one that really resonates with me, I think I posted it on my Instagram actually, is one by Muhammad Ali, and it said, "If the mind can conceive it, if the heart can believe it, then you can achieve it." I'm like, yes, buddy. It's that whole visualization thing, that whole like manifestation thing, that idea of, linking charm and just going for what you have your mind set on. And that minute that you get it is such a beautiful moment. That's self-belief, It runs through everything that I do in my teachings, the encouragement piece that I have when people come to my classes. And one of the reasons I think they love me is because I try and get them to believe that you can do whatever you want to do. You can achieve it, So that quote really resonated with me.
You should chuck that quote in your next class. That'll fire everyone
up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that quote because it starts with, if your mind can conceive it. Like that's what we've been talking about today. Is literally like first thing in the morning, you set your mind up to try and see the things, conceive the things that you want to achieve so that you can see the charm.
Yeah, it's a dynamite quote from a dynamite guy, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love quotes. I'm constantly looking for quotes that will inspire me or things that, resonate with me. But yeah, that's a good one.
Awesome. Well, I think that's how we wrap up the podcast. I appreciate your time.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me, Brock. It's been an absolute pleasure just, connecting with you right from that car park outside Hermés. And now I'm on his podcast. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I looked you on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got a massive following, But you're so down to earth. It's been really a pleasure connecting with you. And you're so inspiring. You really are.
But that's what I love about you as well. Sorry to jump in. I was like, it's so cool to meet someone that like loves it. Like a practitioner, loving it, doing it. Like we got that gig because we're great, right? Because we have something to give.
That's it.
And then, but sometimes people that are great maybe achieved it through different mindsets. Yeah. Let's put it that way. And I'm like, that's why I'm not a huge fan of those events sometimes, because I'm like, oh no, I'm going to have to kiss people's ass and like, hi man, and I'm never really going to see them, or they'll say, let's catch up soon. And I'm like, I don't really want to catch up soon. Sometimes I'll like, and this has been hard, sometimes I'll just say, no.
Oh.
Like, and it's like,
they're like, whoa, what do you mean?
I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like, and it's really hard to stand but I'm just like, we probably weren't going to catch up anyway. Yeah. And I'm like, like not like a bad person. Like I don't want to be your friend.
Yeah,
but
but
I'm
you
like,
just know that our paths are
we're
not.
just very
We're just
different, man.
Yeah.
Like I want to have Norma on my podcast, like not you, man. So
No, oh God, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and again, pinching myself like most things in my life, you know. But it's been so amazing to connect with you, Brock. I've been listening to your podcast as well, which is awesome. But thank you for having me. I was really nervous. Again, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? What's this?
Nothing to be nervous about. This is just like a chat. It just looks full on, but it's not.
It's a chat. No, it's been a pleasure. So thank you. I'm very, very grateful for, the opportunity to, get people to listen to someone else.
100%. Oh, quickly before we finish, what is next for you? How can people follow you?
So you can follow me. My Instagram is norma.nelson.yoga. Follow me, see what I do. I'm constantly running workshops, handstand workshops.
You're doing something in Byron Basin.
In Byron Bay.
Is it? No, not Byron Bay. Oh, I thought I saw you post something. It was like an orange.
No, I'm doing a workshop. I'm doing an arm balancing workshop this weekend in Sydney.
Okay.
So but I had some Hermés pics up there.
Oh, sorry.
No, all good. But what's next for me? I'm in the middle of sort of putting together retreats. So I want to do immersions.
Whereabouts?
Handstand in Thailand is the next one. Yeah. So I'm hoping to tee that up for March. Trying to do that at the moment. Just get people. I want to take people away. Immersions. Get stuck into it. 8 days, all handstands or whatever. Travel, just marry my love of travel and, what I do, yoga, handstands, animal flow, take people away, get them away from their daily grind and focus on something for a bit of time. So just continuing to do more workshops and retreats is next on the list.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We'll wrap it up there.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
your time.
Brock. Thank you so much.